Aaron, thank you very much for doing this. Much appreciated.
No
You've
worries.
come a little bit of a way to come here, so much appreciated for that. Really, I just want to, because I watched you talk at the Arrow event, the AI Arrow event.
Yeah.
I forgot what the event's name was actually. Just AI Arrow something. It was, a really good event, and you were talking, and your piece on how AI is being used as an offensive and defensive method in cybersecurity is really interesting. I think AI is going to be a massive play in cybersecurity now.
Yeah.
Well, as it is in all areas of the IT industry and just the world, to be fair. So before we go into Everfox and where you work and what you do, what's your role? What's your story in the IT industry? How have you got to where you are today?
Yeah, really, really good question. So I started off my career working for a guy called Simon Wiseman. He's one of the CTOs at Everfox. We have multiple CTOs. And at the time when I joined, he was CTO at a small UK company called Deep Secure. And I started off my career purely by chance.
Yeah.
I did a degree in computing and I took a year out to do a placement year. I applied to a few different places and this small company called Deep Secure popped up. I was like, that seems like an interesting role. Did an interview with the CTO at the time, Simon Wiseman, and I just thought, wow, this world is crazy. I need to join this world, but also, it seems super scary and super advanced. So I spent a year at Deep Secure, absolutely loved my experience there, and working with government customers. So I rejoined, and then fast forward to today, Deep Secure was acquired by a company called ForcePoint. ForcePoint split into two. The government half of ForcePoint became Everfox, and now currently today we are Everfox. So essentially, the government half of ForcePoint, which was multiple different companies. And you can trace it all the way back to the likes of Raytheon Cyber Products or even Trusted Computer Solutions. If you look right back towards sort of 2005, 2006 timeframe.
So you've always kind of been focused on the government projects. That's been most of your experience.
Yeah, so good question. So so I started off my career working as a research assistant under the CTO, and then I decided to make the move into pre-sales. And I've been in pre-sales ever since. And I'd say that I sort of float in my role as a solution architect. So I've sort of always focused more in on the government work, but also get involved in opportunities with financial services organisations. Anywhere really that's highly regulated. That's generally what we use to make.
There's a lot of compliance issues. There's a lot of strict rules they have to follow. That's where you guys specialise, really.
Exactly that. Because we're not a strictly mass market commodity item that you could just buy if you're a tiny little organisation. We have solutions that could be applicable to those particular organisations. But for the most part, we tend to focus on the kind of organisations that will receive or potentially receive advanced threats in the similar ways to a government organisation would.
Talking about advanced threats, what sort of current threats are we seeing now as AI comes in and people are pushing the boundaries?
Yeah, so it's a really, really good question. So I would say that my experiences with AI started about 2 years ago. It's probably going on. I'd say it's probably going on 3 years now. But I, like most people, was first discovering the powers of the likes of ChatGPT.
That's when it all kicked off.
Exactly that. I realised, and I thought, hey, look. So we basically built a demonstration, and that demonstration. This was a number of years ago. It's about 6-7 years ago. We built a demonstration to show the power of using steganography from an attacker's perspective. So steganography is the act of inserting a message inside an image, and trying to detect steganography is extremely hard. It's nigh on impossible. When ChatGPT was first coming around, I looked back at that work that we did a long time ago, and I thought, I wonder how easy it is to do that now, because advanced persistent threat actors it used to take them quite a long time to build out their infrastructure, their command and control infrastructure, and more importantly, build out their code that would go onto the actual end device.
Yeah.
So I think in my experiment, it took about 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, I had gone from no code at all to building something that could embed a message inside an image and actually provide the means in which to have essentially a backdoor that would communicate to a command and control server. Now, we built it purely as a demonstration.
Yeah.
But I think it really scared me because it showed, hey, look, you don't need an army of developers anymore. You can quite literally have somebody in their bedroom coding with the help of an AI tool to go and create, these really advanced pieces of malware that really were previously only reserved for, the really big advanced persistent threat actors.
So does that mean we're seeing a massively increased volume of cyber attacks now, just from all over?
It's a really good question. I would say no, and the reason I'd say no is that I would say the overall threat landscape hasn't changed hugely with AI.
Okay.
And the reason I don't believe it has is because this is more of a sort of a back-end thing, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is that the development time has gone down dramatically, which on the face of it doesn't seem like any material change, but actually it means that more advanced threats can be developed quicker. So it's not so much necessarily, the huge amount, large number of threats. It's actually, maybe one or two threats to that particular organization have basically become much more advanced compared to before.
So they're becoming a lot stronger, those threats now.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, so how, on the defense side, how are we seeing AI being integrated to defend against these?
So that's a really, really good question. So I would say there's sort of two parts to this. So there is organizations adopting AI. And they can be government organizations as well. And they have, the ability to adopt AI is massively beneficial, even in environments such as, places where an air gap is required, for instance, where it can't be directly connected to an internet service, so like segregated networks. I think that just from a purely productivity perspective, adopting those AI solutions are great and massively beneficial. Then there's a second part to this, which is, and there's probably a third part as well, but the second part is how do you bring that AI model into that segregated environment securely? How can you prove that the model itself is safe? And how can you ensure that that model isn't going to be corrupted when coming into the environment? Because that's a possible attack vector as well. And then there's a third part, which is, as a cybersecurity company, what could we be doing better? How can we start to adopt AI to actually ensure that our cybersecurity solutions have a higher efficacy? Now, the way we've built all of our solutions previously in the past is not to rely on detection. So we don't generally have this game of cat and mouse that other vendors may have with trying to stop the latest threats. But I think somewhere where AI could possibly augment our solutions is more around the reporting aspect. So we have stopped the threat, but actually our customers might want to see more detailed reports, and actually using AI to augment those reports that get produced. Today, using AI to augment those reports so that our customers can see
what's happened, how
exactly
to improve,
what's happened.
That continual improvement in defense, basically.
Exactly that.
Okay.
Exactly that. But then I think AI plays a massive part in things like, and I think this is already, some of the industry is quite well established now, which is using AI to stop things like phishing attacks. And that's not an area where Everfox plays today, but I think it's important to call that out. That there is a much greater chance at stopping a phishing attack now with the use of things like optical character recognition, and actually just using AI more broadly to work out, reputation and stuff like that.
So what is Everfox's main function? What do you do? How does it work?
Yeah, really.
What does Everfox do practically?
Really good question. So we have sort of 3 key areas that we focus on today. So we focus on something called cross-domain solutions.
Okay.
So cross-domain solution basically is a solution that helps to connect one network up to another network.
Okay. Yeah.
And that network may be a sensitive network connecting to the internet. In the financial services type use case, it may be a secure area of a network connecting to the other part of the network. Okay. So, for instance, it could be a HSM. HSM store private keys within something like a cryptocurrency context. If you're a cryptocurrency custodian and you're storing private keys, you really don't want that HSM to become compromised.
Yeah, that's
because your business effectively no longer functions because you have no control over the wallets that you're storing. So a cross-domain solution is basically connecting a sensitive network up to an unsensitive network. So it's, a general network, general corporate network, all directly to the internet. And within that portfolio, we've got 2 different types of solutions. So we have cross-domain transfer solutions, which are all about transferring data to and from that sensitive network. And then we've got a whole product line around cross-domain access solutions. So access solutions are all about securely accessing resources from within that sensitive network. So rather than having to have 2, 3, 4, 5 different PCs on your on your physical desktop, you can shrink that down to one single PC and have one single unified view of the world, as it were. And we're actually continuing to integrate much more closely together our transfer and access solutions so that it's seamless, so that when you want to access one of those pieces of content that you see in that insecure network, you can just click one button and it appears directly within your sensitive network.
Okay.
So that's the cross-domain solutions. We also have a line of the business that focuses on content disarm and reconstruction. So content disarm and reconstruction plays a part in our cross-domain solutions, but we've also split it away into its own independent category. So content disarm and reconstruction is basically all around breaking apart a file format.
Okay.
So that's something like a PDF, an Excel spreadsheet, and actually validating the contents of that file format itself. And what we're doing is we're actually only really looking for the things that we know and we understand.
Okay.
So if you, for instance, have a PowerPoint, we are basically picking out all the parts of the PowerPoint that makes that PowerPoint a PowerPoint. So the text, the formatting of that text, even things like when people have provided comments. We represent all of that in our own internal file format, and we can either validate that in hardware or software. So we validate our own file format that we've represented from those components. Once that validation process has happened, then we basically rebuild back into the original format. So if you're a user and you see the 2 side by side, you can look and interact and feel that PowerPoint in exactly the same way that you would have done with the original, except that original may contain advanced threats, may even contain a 0-day.
Right, okay.
But because we've not explicitly looked for that 0-day, we're just treating all data the same, we can say with a level of confidence that that document that comes out the other side is going to be safe and clean.
Okay.
And for you as a user interacting with that document, it feels like an everyday normal document. Like I have this solution on for my emails, so when I receive an email, I receive a clean version of it. And I don't notice it on a day-to-day basis. I don't think I've ever noticed a difference
at all. Okay.
At all, yeah. So I've not noticed there's anything missing or anything like that. It's just a seamless experience as a user. And then finally, our third part or the third line of the business is all around insider risk. So it's we essentially call it an insider risk portfolio because it's a true insider risk solution. So it comprises of a couple of products within that, but basically the insider risk portfolio is all around making sure that your employees' welfare is keen and paramount, but also stopping sensitive data leakage. So I often get the question, why is this different to a DLP tool? And actually, it's more around understanding the behaviors of your users to be able to properly understand if a particular user is at risk of leaking out data.
Yeah. So it watches their behavior and be like, this person's
So we don't like to say it's a monitoring tool because it's not an employee monitoring tool. It's built purely for dealing with insider risk. So it sounds like I'm sort of talking about the same thing there, but I think there's a little bit of a distinction between the two. And that distinction is basically ensuring that your employees or the organization's assets are safe.
Okay.
And I think there's a little bit of a distinction there because employee monitoring tools talk more around
what they're doing day to day, how long they've been on.
Exactly that productivity type stuff, and that isn't the focus of this solution at all. Is actually just ensuring that the employees are not breaking laws or regulations. Doing things like insider trading.
It'll flag something up and be like, that's definitely illegal, sort of thing, or that's a risk.
It can do, but it's actually all around understanding the employee's behaviour on a day-to-day basis to say, actually, maybe this person's potentially high risk. Why don't their manager actually just have a chat with that particular person around what they're doing? So you essentially avoid it ever getting to the point of actually a user, hey, look, this user's leaked 80 terabytes to their personal OneDrive, for instance.
Right, okay,
if it gets that far, then the solution has been a failure. We want to be able to understand the employee's behaviour so that, that real high-risk scenario gets reduced down to actually just a conversation with their manager.
Right, it's like preempted it and fixed the problem before it's become
exactly
an issue.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So for that second solution you said were about rebuilding the...
Yeah.
So because you mentioned earlier that you're trying to avoid working on just detection, is it kind of you recreate it so the only code that's actually working is the stuff that's based on the PowerPoint example?
Yeah.
If it's not PowerPoint related, it just doesn't even get run, basically.
Exactly that, yeah. So... say, for instance, you were to embed an executable within a PowerPoint document. We won't provide any sort of metrics to say, hey, look, we've removed this executable, but we can say with a level of guarantee that that executable is not going to appear in the verification stage because we've never looked for it in the first place. We've never, that executable is not expected to be there. According to our view of the world.
That makes sense. So it's like that hole, you can't put a square peg in a round hole because it's like the only one that will physically go through the hole is the right peg. So
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. So where are your main differentiators against other competitors? Because I'm sure there are probably other companies that do the same sort of thing. But what gives Everfox that success? Is it the product or is it the service you guys provide?
So I would say it's probably a bit of both. I would definitely say that the product itself, we don't rely on detection in any way, shape or form.
Okay. And is that the common go-to normally for other technologies?
So content disarmament reconstruction is all around. The reason why we've grouped it into that field, so content disarmament reconstruction is a field, there are a few other players in the content disarmament reconstruction space, but disarmament is all around, disarming the threat. We previously called it threat removal before renaming it to content disarmament reconstruction. And the reason why we named it threat removal before was because of the fact that we don't rely on detection. But then there's a second part to this, which you touched upon, which is around the service. So the content disarmament reconstruction solution also has a cloud API that you can communicate and interact with. And we found a lot of success with that cloud API because a customer can say, hey, look, I'm building a publicly facing portal. I'm accepting driving licenses, I'm accepting passports, I'm accepting any kind of user data that might not necessarily be trusted. How can I make that safe? and actually that just becomes a simple HTTP request
Yeah.
to our API, and then we'll send back a clean file. So it's around providing that service as well.
Yeah. Okay.
We've had 100% uptime since we launched that service. So.
When was that launched then?
2019.
And you've had 100% uptime. Yeah, that's impressive. That's rare for anything, really.
Yeah.
Instagram went down the other day. They're one of the biggest. So yeah, that's very impressive. So you're mainly channel focused then. You don't do direct, do you? You through partners, or you do some direct?
Yeah, good question. So nearly all channel led.
Okay. Yeah.
Channel focused.
Yeah. So you originally were just government, and now you're going into.
So
or was it always mixed?
Yeah, good question. So we even as Deep Secure, we would do some commercial.
Okay.
We would deal with some commercial organisations. We've always been a dual use technology. I would say that now there is definitely more emphasis on going more down the commercial route, but focusing mostly on highly regulated
industries. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So what would that customer journey look like from first meeting, first introduction to down the line to implementation? How does that work with you guys?
Yeah, good question. So it generally depends on the products. So for the content design and reconstruction product, as somebody who works in pre-sales, I've ran POCs that have lasted half an hour to an hour.
Yeah.
With the content design and reconstruction product, it's a super easy product to use. Very, very simple. We've got a cloud portal that you can just go sign into. The cross-domain solutions, generally, I would say it's a much more hands-on, almost consultative at times. We will provide best practice advice to the customer to build out their network to make sure that we can be most effective as a cross-domain solution. And then with the insider risk portfolio, we generally find that we will help a customer if they don't already have an insider risk program. Today we will help them build out an insider risk program and make sure that they are effective in building out that program.
Okay. Does a lot of that involve like ISO 27001? Is that a common thing you guys are working with frameworks?
So various regulations, and they do depend on who the end customer actually
that makes sense.
Is.
Oh, so in terms of someone watching this might want to find out more information, where's the best place to go to? Are there any online resources or?
Yeah, so we've got the website at everfox.com. We have various case studies on there. We have various resources. We have data sheets. And actually, a lot of our prospects end up just contacting us.
Okay.
And they often just want something that's a bit more bespoke for them.
Yeah.
So generally, we'll just get on an hour-long call and discuss what that particular customer requirement is, and then work out from there what the best solution is to help them.
Bespoke it down. Yeah, it's not just an off-the-shelf thing with something this big, really, is it?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay. Have you got any events coming up that you're talking at?
Good question. No events spring to mind anytime soon. But I'm sure some will come up in due course.
Perfect. Well, Aaron, thank you very much.